Here's how my garden looks right now. But let's zoom in. Today I'm going to take you on a macro tour of my garden. Bear with me now. Because the focus that's achieved through the method I'm using is only through me moving my camera closer and further behind. So we're going to have some blur. Here is a kale plant. Today we're going to discover how things look closer than we've ever seen them in the garden. This is the leaf of a kale seedling. It's about 1 centimeter across, both leaves. I'm fascinated by the macro world and what you can find in it. There's a whole world of adventures, characters, creatures. Here's a bug I never would have found without my camera. It's perched on the tip of this kale sprout leaf. This bug is the size of a period on a sheet of paper. I never would have seen it, but it's living its little life down here, an adventuresome life, and I'm amazed by it. We're still in the kale patch. Here, a microscopic spider has built its web. This whole web is less than a 1/4 inch across. And look how beautiful the water droplets are. I'm gonna have to run get my tripod because, oh my goodness. Another character in our adventure, struggling in the spider's web. What this is, I have no idea. Please, if you know, leave it in the comments. This creature that you're seeing is not visible to my eye. Not visible, it's that small. These water droplets are just specks. And here's this creature in the struggle of its life out in the garden. Trying to get off this spider's web, it looks like it. And I imagine it will become food for a spider that's almost too small to see. The weeds grow too in the kale patch. Here is a seedling. This is a type of clover. It's that sweet, tangy clover that I always used to eat as a kid. And these leaves are about 2 millimeters across. I love seeing the detail of the leaves, something I've never noticed before. This little video is a journey of discovery for me as well. I always like seeing the small dramas that are happening anywhere in the world, but especially in the garden. We've moved on to the garden bed where I'm growing peas to eat fresh in the pod this spring. What you're looking at is a pea. That'll give you an idea of the scale of this video. And here, behind the pea, a little pea sprout growing up and up. At the tip of the pea plant we find this little arm reaching up, this little tendril. This is the tip. It's about as thick as a hair, maybe actually thicker than a hair, reaching up, looking for something to grab, to climb up so it can access the sun. And this one is forked and has 2 branches. Here's another weed, but this is a weed I love. This is called lamb's quarter. And those might look like eggs, but they're actually little water droplets. And lamb's quarter tends to bead water. It repels water and will hold it beautifully on its leaves. Here at the base of several leaves in what I think of as a goblet is a beautiful tiny drop of water held by all the leaves together. Here's a carrot sprout, closer than you've ever seen it. Up on top, we'll find a little leftover bit of that seed, dry and dead now. And the leaves are still dirty from just having popped up through the soil. Here's a radish seed. This one will probably never germinate. I scattered radish seeds over a bed and raked over it, and some end up on the surface and some end up buried. And right next to it, a snail shell. This snail lived a life unseen. And if you look at it, you'll see that snail shell is no bigger than this radish seed. Here's a casualty of gardening. Actually, no, look, it's alive. It moved its leg. I thought I'd killed this little centipede, just a hatchling centipede, when I raked the garden beds, but apparently it's not dead. It's just alive. It's alive. It's just still. It's either eating something or I don't know. But again, this little creature is about a 1/4 inch long in total. We're now going to move on to a wood chip pile. This pile's been here about a year. And here is a clump of wood chips from the edge of the pile that's full of white fungal mycelium. Mycelium are like the body of fungi. They are what live year after year under the soil or under wood chips, hidden from the sun. And it's their network that allows the mushrooms to fruit. And they play a vital role in renewing your soil and your plants accessing nutrients. Okay, we've moved just a few feet, and here's a worm I cannot identify. I kicked the mulch, and the little worm retreated back into the darkness of the mulch. Here's a tiny earthworm retreating after I disturbed the mulch. Its back end is about to disappear back into the wood chips. Slowly disappearing out of the sunlight. Sorry, little worm. On to the cow manure pile. I kicked the pile and immediately discovered ants. A whole nest of ants in the side of the manure pile. I wasn't able to capture ants because they move so fast, but I also disturbed a nest of pill bugs. I'm going to try to capture them. They're beautiful and really cool looking. Here's an ant nest, and here's a pill bug in the ant nest. In this little world, it's hard to focus. It's hard to find anything you can see with your eye. You're seeing what I'm seeing, and I'm pretty amazed by it, but it's a lot of this hunting out of focus. If you're wondering, how I'm capturing these images, and I didn't spend a bunch of money on a macro lens, it's a simple technique, and it involves just taking the lens off your DSLR, turning it around and holding it against the camera, and I did tape mine to my camera body with electrical tape to block light. But it does quickly allow you to capture really neat images you couldn't capture otherwise. Like here's another spider's web. This is on the manure pile, and I just think it's incredibly lovely and beautiful. And the whole thing is less than ½ an inch across, this whole web. Moving on from the manure pile, here we are in the upper garden beds, which I just planted with a cover crop, winter rye. You can see the grain there. And then here's the stalk. This plant's 1 inch tall, and it will protect the soil, loosen the soil with its roots, and it's reaching up towards the sky with one tiny grass-like leaf. One little blade. Now we're moving on to a dandelion flower. This dandelion flower is way too big to capture in its completeness, but you can see we're looking right at the center of the flower, and there's a level of beautiful detail there you've probably never seen in a dandelion. Next, I'm going to show you a close-up of more clay soil that's not been amended so much. It's a lot of pebbles, a lot of bits of clay, quartz, mica, and then in a second we'll move down and I'll show you the soil in a bed that's been amended more heavily. This soil is, of course, not devoid of life, but there's very little organic matter in it. Here's a garden bed. It's basically the same soil, but it's been heavily amended over the past years. And the type of stuff you'll find in here that you'll find less up there is tiny microscopic pieces of wood, broken down compost, and I don't know if you can tell in the macro, but in normal life there is a dramatic difference in the color, and this amended soil is much darker. Okay guys, thanks for joining us as we took a macro tour of this little garden space here. There's a whole world of stories that we could have found out, I'm sure, about all the creatures in this garden. Hope you enjoyed it. Talk to you later. Bye.